I'm just going to talk about this, and I hope people understand, and I know people have different opinions, particularly the media. Again, the media should know better. They're pushing this narrative that Ireland should join NATO. And I tell you why Ireland should join NATO. As you know, and as Donald Trump said before, every NATO country needs to give money to NATO. It'll be 7 or 8 billion. It's recommended that it be a good billion, a good lot of billions anyway, to give to NATO, to fund weapons, to fund different things. Because you just don't join NATO and don't give anything. You just don't sign a piece of paper and don't give anything. You have to contribute financially and militarily to things and things like that. And it's probably be something like 7 to 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion. The state Denmark is contributing, I think, 7 billion a year to NATO. Just for example, again, this is the thing I wanted to say. And the media pretended that it's going to be fine and dandy. We'll be able to go in and we wouldn't have to pay a cent. This is the thing. That's 7 billion, and just to make it, and somebody put up a tweet earlier on, and really got me thinking. That could build 30,000 houses in the state. 30,000, 7 billion. So either because again, something has to give. The country can't pay 7 billion to join NATO. And then think about this. One thing I needed to say before I say this, because the media seems to be gone on a fantasy and not realising reality. The Defence Forces itself done a report 2 weeks ago, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it said that the Defence Forces in the state at the moment, the 8,000 members of Oak Creek and Heron at the moment, it's not possible to defend the state, to defend this island, compared about defending anywhere else. It's not possible for Ireland to defend itself, let alone defend any other country. And that's what we need to understand. We can't defend itself, and this is on a small military budget. How in the name of Christ are we supposed to fund and pay for weapons for our own army and pay 7 to 8 billion, maybe 10 billion, God knows how much billion, to make us pay for NATO a year? How are we supposed to do that? Because again, something has to give. Either it'll be on housing, healthcare, on Galloway Street and the Connaught, obviously be more crime and things that, less nurses, less doctors. Something has to give. And that's what we need to understand. It's best to remain neutral, to stay out of things. It's served the state well, I'm sure you'll agree. We weren't involved in Iraq, we weren't in Afghanistan, we were never in any major conflict as an independent state, as the Irish state. We never were in a war. We obviously went off in peacekeeping, and obviously that's a good thing to be recognised from abroad as a peacekeeping nation that wants to keep the peace and uphold stability, and to try to stabilise places that are struck by war and poverty. And obviously that's very good. Ireland is leading the way literally in Europe. Nearly 70 years of peacekeeping, United Nations peacekeeping, as you know, in the Congo, terrible times in the Congo. The Irish Defence Forces serve very well and help people in the Congo, help people over, as you know, even the Golan Heights at the moment, the soldiers up in the Golan Heights. And getting involved in NATO, it's a military alliance. It might be a defensive alliance, but it's still a military alliance. And even sending weapons, as I even said, to NATO, not to NATO, to the Ukraine. That is, it's all about sending medication or food or clothes. That's humanitarian aid, obviously, that's going to civilians. But sending weapons like anti-tank weapons, that anti-tank weapons are needed to defend the state. Every gun, every bullet is needed to defend the state. Because we don't have a lot of it. United States, all NATO countries have unlimited arsenals to give to any other country. The United States probably has thousands of spare tanks lying around. As you've seen in Afghanistan, they could leave the guns, hundreds of thousands of guns in Afghanistan, and the United States Army can produce it overnight again. But if that was this country, we lose. Again, we have to use our brains. We can't just go on emotions. Neutrality is served as well. And again, that doesn't stop from being attacked, obviously, and I will talk about that in another video. But this is the thing. Neutrality is our best policy, and obviously that means not going mad, going mad and trying to expel the Russian ambassador, or knocking down the gates of the Russian embassy. Even though I don't like the Russian, but I might just say straight, I don't like him. I think he's very sly. To be totally honest, I think he's very, I don't like him. I think he's something to him. But again, this is the thing. Neutrality is about keeping the Russian ambassador here and not taking any side. Basically, in the middle, but engaging with both sides and in the middle. Obviously, Russia's in the wrong. 100% Russia is in the wrong for what they do, for what they're doing at the moment in the world. 100%. But at the same time, it's in the middle. We should be in the middle, not taking one side. Not, leaning to one side, if it makes any sense. Because that's for our own protection, not for anybody else's, for our own protection, for the state's protection. And I say this to you. As I said, the state hasn't got the means to defend itself. And just let that sink in on yourself. And have the people who are saying to join NATO, take for example, they won't go over when the time comes, when there's a world war, they won't go over and sacrifice themselves. They'll be the first person to say, I won't go up and with a rifle and defend Ireland. And they'll be the ones to be shouting the loudest to join NATO. And I just say to you, calm yourself down. You should be proud of your country, being a neutral country, not wanting to get involved in any wars or anything like that, and trying to protect its own people. Again, it's all about protecting. We have to think about our next generation. If there's a war, God forbid, if there's a war in the morning, then hundreds of thousands of young lads like me, 19, 15, 16, under 18 or whatever. Because that's probably what would have to be done. They have to draft people under 18 because there wouldn't be enough fit and able-bodied people to go out and hold a rifle in Eastern Europe, or God knows where it could be. It would be slaughter. It will literally be slaughter. We would lose hundreds of thousands of young people, women too, and a whole generation to be sent to their graves. The best thing, as you've seen for this in the Second World War, Ireland got off relatively unscathed. There was a few bombings, obviously accidental. There was obviously people who joined the British Army and things like that. But at the grand scheme of things, Ireland got off better than other countries. And we should remember that it's the best policy. Neutrality is the best policy. Not getting involved is the best policy. And obviously, as I said before, I can't say this enough, Russia is to blame. Russia is the one who started all this. But again, we had to think of ourselves in Ireland. We had to think of ourselves. And I say into the journalists, particularly the journalists, you have to calm yourselves down. You're taking like NATO, like take for example, we have to take it because there's also pros and cons. We abandon our neutrality and risk getting attacked at any moment by Russia, because again, that's the world at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. At least if we're neutral, we have a chance in surviving whatever comes. And that's what we need to realise. And again, the word is, we don't have the defences to defend our own island. How are we going to do it if we join NATO? How are we going to fund it? Where's the money going to come from? This is what hasn't been said by journalists. They've been saying we should man up and join NATO. But are we going to lose hundreds of thousands of people lying in the streets because there's no such thing as social housing? There's no healthcare. They'll have to probably close hundreds of hospitals around the country. There's probably only 1 or 2 left in the country. Because again, it will come at a huge cost because we have to pay into NATO for weapons and things. So it will come at a huge cost. So think about that as you will. But neutrality serves the state well, and not getting involved and protecting our citizens. That's the main focus of this country, and should be the main focus, and shouldn't change. And I feel very, very strongly about that Ireland has never went to war with any country. Ireland obviously fought for its independence of the United Kingdom, but as a free state, it never declared war or never was in an offensive war or anything like that. Which I'm sure you solved well compared to other countries. Getting involved in wars and things like that. Ireland has never been in anything apart from the War of Independence, but never since the foundation of the Irish Free State has Ireland ever engaged in any conflict in itself, to fight other wars. Thank you.